Well, like, at a moment, guys, I'm spiraling. And so I am at the point of like, I'm taking a breath, the exhale. I'm at my exhale of the spiral, I guess. It's been like an 8-day saga. And it felt like my eyelashes were not attached to my face. And so I had a moment. I was like, this feels weird. Like, are they there? And so I'm not on another planet. I'm totally here with us in the room. I promise. No substances have been taken.
Sure.
I'm just naturally crashing.
Yeah.
This is all me, baby.
I
So,
said we may see Myra spontaneously combust on this episode. Might be the one to watch.
yeah, this is it, guys. You've caught
This
me
is it.
red-handed. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the one.
Because last week was our 1 year anniversary when we
Yep.
started. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is so cool.
Yeah.
It is so cool. I love it, and I was so excited. It was really funny, guys, because I think I've had a few lessons this week. One of them, I think, is just listening to my instincts because I second guess myself or doubt myself. And even as simple as this, for example, that entire day, I thought to myself, I really want to text Tressa. I'm like, I want to text her and I really want to know. I wanted a meditation. I wanted a cord cutting meditation, which is what sparked. But it wasn't even, I didn't even like it wasn't even asking her for the meditation. It was actually wanting to talk about this subject. And I'm like, oh, I need to text her. I need to text her. And the whole day, I mean, I went like several hours because we're on different time zones. And so for me, I had this thought for quite a while. And I was like, oh, but I don't want to bother her because she's with her mom, and she's busy. This woman's busy. Like she has a life. Like, and this is minuscule. I don't know. Me asking for meditation. I don't even know. And I have no issues texting anyone, but I was so in my head about it. And I swear I like looked at my phone. I sat it down. I picked it up and there says Tressa Barnes. I'm like, and I was like, okay, well, thanks, universe. I guess I was pulling on her little thread. We were pulling on each
Yeah.
other's thread, I guess, across the universe because she obviously was thinking of me too. I was like, oh, look, we're thinking of each other. But I was so in my head about it. I don't even know why. It was ridiculous. And so anyways, but as soon as I like sat my phone down, she texted me. And so I'm like, okay, well, obviously I was meant to talk to her because I'm ridiculous. And so that's a glimpse of how ridiculous I was in my head last week. So
Yeah, I
something
know.
simple.
Something so simple, right? Because especially text, like,
Yeah.
you can text me anytime. It doesn't matter what's happening because you never know what somebody else is doing. But text is to me, it's like really anyone could call or text me anytime. I always say, well, if I can't answer the phone, I won't answer the phone. But
Yeah.
text itself is so invasive because they can respond whenever they have a minute, right? It's not
Yeah.
like yeah. So that's funny.
I
You
think
were thinking about that all day and then I text you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that I was projecting my own emotions out in the world because and I agree. I don't mind talking on the phone, but I would rather someone text me. Just text me. Because
Yeah.
I'm usually doing a million things. Not really, but like or I'll call you if I can or we'll talk if we can. But then a lot of people in my corner get really weird when you don't answer phone calls. And I'm like, just text me. Like we can have a call. Like if it's that big of a deal, I can respond quicker, and I talk on the phone all day on meetings, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes it's just
It's a lot.
draining. It's
Yeah,
very
I get that.
draining when you're in calls and meetings and I don't shut the hell up. So I drain myself. You know what I mean? And so like it can be exhausting. And so I think I was just projecting my own emotions because I was telling Tressa before the call, last week was just one of those weeks for me where it felt like every minute of my life was filled with something. And I was just like, I felt like a Google Calendar in my head. And that happens sometimes because I think like, oh, I have meetings at this time, or I need to do this with my kid at this time, or I'm doing this and that. I really try to take advantage of my day full force and do as many things as I can. And it was one of those weeks where I really think the week was showing me how unhealthy the unbalance can be. Yeah, like how unbalanced it can get, right?
Mhm.
Where I'm giving too much. I'm giving too much
Yeah.
somewhere and I'm not receiving what I'm need. And, I had some conversations last week. I don't think we recorded after I had the conversations, but I actually had conversations with my boss last week about balance. And I had a conversation about what I'm giving to the company and what I feel is being given or what I'm receiving. Like I felt like there was an imbalance there. I felt like there was an imbalance in my personal life too. I felt this all week long, and the way the week unfolded was a good week, but it just continued to show me that, okay, like when you aren't taking time, we all need time to rest and recalibrate and to let your nervous system rest. I told Tressa the best way I could explain it is it feels like fight or flight. Like we're always on. There was no turning off. Like I didn't feel like I could turn off enough
Yeah.
last week. And so
Mhm.
it was not I wouldn't even say bad. I mean, there were moments I cried several times, cried several times in the last week, and I don't cry very often. So I needed a release of some sort. I
Yeah.
needed this. It showed me something that I needed to see, and it helped me I think I was just processing something too. I needed to process. I had a lot of conversations with different people last week. It was just one of those kind of weeks, and they were very deep and beautiful and emotional conversations. And I even had some ugly conversations with people, and that was what led me to ask for the cord cutting meditation from Tressa. That's what sparked the conversation, and then it's what led me. I did have a moment where and we can talk about it as we get into the episode, but I did have a moment where I am actually not upset with how I acted, and I think I acted the way I needed to act in the moment for that conversation, because with this particular relationship, there's such an imbalance, and I've allowed and allowed and just kind of listened and let it roll off, and like silence. Silence is just let it go and move on and don't take on those things. But it got to the point where it reached its head. And so there was a very heated exchange. But, so I think it's been kind of a snowball. So it led to a lot of things, but mostly I thought all week long, whenever I had texted Tressa, mostly I thought, man, I don't want any of this shit. I don't want any of these attachments. I don't want none of it. I'm like, I need to do this meditation. And then at least felt prompted enough to move forward with getting the meditation. Like I didn't just blow it off, but like I felt really, really prompted that I need to do this meditation. And it's hilarious because I just told Tressa I haven't even done it, but I'm going to do it tonight. And so I have the time. The time is now. Tonight's the night. So anyways, that was long-winded monologue, but
Yeah,
here
I
we
think
are.
it'll be good to talk about it. When Myra texted me about the cord cutting and she wanted to do the episode on that, and she wanted me to send her the meditation that I love to use for cord cutting, I said, I think that's really good because I was at my mom's last week, and, we have these energetic cords that are coming at us
Mhm.
all the time. And being in her environment, being with her and her husband and their belief structure and how they operate, it's very different than how I operate when I'm in my own space. And
Mhm.
so, really, I had to even have a heightened awareness last week myself to really two things. And this is a challenging situation. One, not be in judgment of where they're at, right?
Mhm.
And think you're lower than me or this is bad. It just is. But it's not the way that I want to present myself. It's not my belief structure. It's not where my vibration stays
Mhm.
where Tressa wants it to be. So having that heightened awareness around them was really, really important. And I had a situation. Tuesday was a pretty rough day. My mom has got a brain tumor and a lung tumor, and I'm down there trying to
Mhm.
help her navigate doctors, and her body is not doing great. She's got all these issues going on. And Tuesday, we had to go to a doctor's appointment across the city of Las Vegas. So we get there, there's construction, and her husband's driving, and he's a very anxious person. Well, coming back, he started just be very erratic. And my central nervous system at that point in that day, like, it was just shot. My emotions were
Yeah.
on high, everything was on
Yeah.
high. And he started to just be so erratic in traffic and so impatient. Like, there was a semi truck at a light and he was pissed that it couldn't turn, so he was yelling, and then he zoomed through this parking lot. And my mom is like this frail little thing, seatbelted in the front. I'm in the back,
Yeah.
and I literally felt like I was going to implode. But what I did, and I'm really proud of myself, because old Tressa would have just sat there and shut her mouth, like, and I just said, I am going to lose my mind. Like, I'm at my wit's end.
Yeah.
You need to knock it off. And he was like, me? I said, yeah, you. You're screaming, you're yelling, you're
Yeah.
driving erratic. He's like, I'm not yelling. I said, well, in Tressa's book, you're yelling.
Yeah.
I am hanging on by a thread. Oh, tone
Mhm.
it down. And I'm thinking, you son of a bitch, here I am. My whole world is gone. I'm giving up
Yeah.
everything to navigate this with you two. And he
Mhm.
stopped and, he got really quiet. And then he said a few things under like kind of self-deprecating things like, well, I should just leave so I don't bug anybody. I said, no, 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 you don't get to do that. Nope,
Mhm.
not here. No, that's
Mhm.
not what this is about. You don't need to do that. We're all on heightened emotions and we need to give each other grace. But what you're doing is not helping the situation and it's not helping me. So that's all I'm saying. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy of being a part of this. It doesn't mean you need to run away. I just held him accountable and I was calm. I was
Mhm.
spoke with assertiveness but kindness. I didn't call him any names, and the old me would have been very passive and then maybe just yelled or not yelled, but just bitched at my mother. And what can she do about it? It's his behavior,
Yeah.
not hers.
Exactly. Yep.
So when you text me, I thought, yeah, this is good because I've had to be so heightened around this exact topic
Mhm.
and also stand up for my own boundaries.
Mm.
When it's not acceptable, it's not acceptable, you know?
Yeah. I'm very proud of you because
No,
that's
thanks.
hard. It's
It
hard
is hard.
to in the moment when you feel like, okay, if I react this way, how will it make this person feel? And like, here's my
Mhm.
mom, like buckling mentally and physically. And then all of a sudden it's like, hello, let me just spice it up. And so it's really a brave thing to one, hold your own boundaries, especially with these people, because this has been ongoing forever, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
this isn't new news for you, but
right.
then, but it was, you're right. Like, and I think this actually goes back to what I was saying too about the balance of what you're giving and getting, right? Like, you're giving
Yes.
so much
Yeah.
into this situation. I mean, you really are. Like, it's
No, I
not
am. Yeah, there's no
like
question.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's no question what you are having to do in this moment and with love I know you want to do it, but for him to continue to make the situation not equal just creates even more tension, and it's probably why it's heightened to the way that it is, because the balance isn't there. You're giving, 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 and you weren't receiving what you needed to receive in that moment. And it was a calmer environment, a less erratic driving experience, for example, in that particular moment, right? That doesn't encompass the whole week. You know what I mean? But like,
Right. Yeah.
it became what it was because I believe there was an imbalance. Like, it wasn't properly, the energy exchange was not happening. There was nothing being
No.
exchanged. It was you overgiving at that point.
It absolutely was, and it was interesting, I thought, well, in the moment, I was just like, "I'm gonna say something, and what happens, happens." I can't control
Yeah.
somebody else's
Yeah.
reaction, but honestly, he calmed down, after he said those few things, and I said, "That's not acceptable." Like, I don't
Yeah.
think he's ever heard those types of words, like, "I'm not going
Yeah.
to allow you to put yourself down, that's not what this is about." And,
Mhm.
we got home, and things were calm, and he was we were in the kitchen and he apologized. He's like, "I'm sorry." I said, "Yeah, I don't need you to be sorry. Like, I'm not asking
Yeah.
for an apology. I'm just sharing with you, I have my limits as well, and I am not going to not speak up for myself when I feel those things,
Yeah.
So honestly, I felt like it actually helped our relationship because he
Mhm.
knew where I stood. There
Yeah.
was no, with my mother, she's very passive with him. And I even said that you're not dealing with her, you're dealing with a different individual, whole
Yeah.
different ball game with me, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to appease you to let you run over me. That's not my personality. That doesn't
Yeah.
because you hit the nail on the head. The balance wasn't there, you know.
Yeah.
And after that point, he and I had some great conversations. He continued to
Yeah.
thank me for what I was doing, and I really did help the balance. And I know sometimes we think, and I was very much programmed with this, and I'm sharing that with you guys because it's so true. We think if we just don't say anything, that it's going to
Mhm.
appease the situation,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. It truly doesn't.
Yeah.
I actually helped the balance go back to where he had a different level of respect for me, I felt. And we had deeper
Yeah.
conversations because he knew I knew who I was and I'm going to stand in my own energy. Of
Yeah.
course, he's not using those words, but that's the energy I could feel.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I can relate to that. Like, I mentioned it a little bit in the call. I actually forgot that even happened last week, the other stuff, because my week was so crazy. But I want to hit on that first. I think that part of restoring a balance is actually speaking up and holding boundaries and stating where you are in those moments. So for you in that moment, that's what you needed to do. And then it shifted. It shifted the energy. It shifted the week. It shifted the momentum of what was happening between you and your mother and him,
Mhm.
this man, her
Yeah,
husband.
her husband.
His name's Eddie, right? I don't even know what his name
Eddie.
is, but
Fast Eddie,
yeah, I
man.
don't
Yeah,
even.
Crazy Eddie,
Yeah.
Fast Eddie, we call him all a bunch
Yeah.
of different things.
Homeboy. It helped.
Homeboy.
Yes. And, I didn't, but well, I think I love how this all works out because that's exactly randomly what I remembered from last week, where I felt like I was being shown this super, I'm giving, giving, giving in all these areas to these different people. And I felt a massive imbalance in my week, professionally and personally. And where all those areas of my life both. And so personally, I had a very deep conversation with my spouse, and I told him how I felt, and like not anything, it was not even, it was all like me. It was me. It's how I felt in those moments. I didn't need anyone to be doing anything particularly different, but I expressed how I felt in the way that I felt. And then things began to shift there. And then in work, I have a very massive imbalance happening. And, we talk about like, how do you shift this? What is the exchange? And an exchange doesn't always have to be monetary. It could be energetic. It could just be, it could be anything. It could be the fact that you received appreciation in the moment from these people back to you, or it could have been like the acknowledgement of it. It could be anything, a high five, a hug, whatever, cookies. And in this particular case, I feel like there is a energetic thing going on here with my or with my work balance, not my life balance, excuse me, my work balance. But also there is an actual monetary discrepancy, like very public monetary discrepancy. And public as in lots of people are very aware of this. And so on Tuesday, I finally just peeled back the curtain, and I had been very candid, but I was just super candid because at this point, like what is going on in this situation has just become ridiculous. And it is so ridiculous and uncalled for and really gross, truly. It's just gross. It should have never happened. It should have never happened. And, my director is like, I take responsibility. He's like, I'm grateful for that. Like even though he has nothing to do with it, and I believe he's truly advocated for me, I really do in this situation, he still took ownership because he's my director. And he's responsible for me as an employee, right? So that was nice. But just me verbalizing it in that moment, I felt really helped shift the energy because I'm like, look, I'm aware. Like, we're not going to play this I'm oblivious game. Like, I'm pretty damn aware of how ridiculous this is getting. And this is just not right. And I said that. I used the word imbalance. Like, I don't care. By the end of the day, I received a phone call from the president. So I guess
Oh, wow.
and I felt like that was really big because this person then had to call me and then look me in the eyes and have a conversation with me about this discrepancy in pay that should have never happened, that they're all very aware of, and tell me this is where we're at and this is what we're trying to get to. Was it fully solved last week? No, it was not. But I feel that the acknowledgement, and now it's like openly, like, okay, there are several chains of command all the way up, all the way down that are very aware of the situation and how like not okay it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me, and there was even some other things that happened that they admitted were wrong, that they were trying to do. And so it was kind of like this thing where I had to be like, okay, things didn't move as fast as I wanted it to, but because now this moment, I'm actually going to probably get more out of this. And so I can recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay. And that's a beautiful moment, right? Of awareness. Like, okay, things have been solved for a reason. It looks like the right people needed to see it because other things were not aligning correctly that shouldn't have ever happened either, and I could have been signing things that um in energy and like spiritual and metaphysical, like if you've ever talked to this is what it makes me think of. If you ever
Mm-hmm.
talked to a psychic or if you ever had any kind of reading and people are like, be wary of contracts. or like, watch what you're writing. This is one of those moments where it would have been like, don't sign this shit, because I would have been signing things. If it would have happened as fast as I wanted it to, I would have been
Yeah.
signing away pieces of my benefits, I guess, if you want to say that, that was completely wrong to take away from me. And it would have been a whole different situation. And so yeah, so I voiced what I needed to voice. This changed. We'll see what happens now. But I feel good that I stood up for myself. I feel so proud of me for saying that, because it's really scary to do that in corporate world. And sometimes we think silence, and I didn't know what the hell was going to happen. But at this point, I'm like, what you're doing to me is horrible. So I guess
Yeah.
like what do I got to lose? You know, like, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I mean, whatever. I had a conversation. Well, then midweek, I have a relative who really bleeds boundaries in my life, like horribly. And I have been really working on protecting myself and my energy around this individual. I've scaled back on our conversations because, like, this person is very possessive of my energy. Like, they think that I'm supposed to respond all the time or give in all the time or like be this sounding board. Like, that's the best sound effect I can give you, people. And I worked really hard on this, like really trying to set boundaries and correcting behavior I personally enabled at some point. Cause I did do that. And I can admit that. I'm self-aware. I enabled the behavior to happen and to let it keep going for as long as it did. And so this week they have a child who they cannot understand why this person isn't basically, and this is exactly what I told them too. They can't understand why their child is basically not performing to their expectations. This is all it is. It's all a performance, and we all have expectations on people, and that's exactly what's happening. They're like, they're not doing this, or they didn't do this, or they didn't post this, or they didn't respond this way, or it's been 2 years. I thought by now we would be fine, or whatever, right? Like, just on and on and on. And I was like, look, this person, you have expectations of how you want them to perform, and they're not meeting them. So even
Mhm.
if they did exactly what you wanted them to do, you would still find fault in it, because it really is damn if you do, damn if you don't, because you're holding expectations over everything on this person. And I said, and truly, they're doing the same to you. And they're like, well, what? Like, they wish I'm dead? I mean, kind of. That is actually how they want you to perform. They want you to perform in a non-contact way. That is truly what they're looking for right now. And it's not like radio silence, but it's basically like, I need my space. I don't really want to chat. Like, we don't need to go have dinner because it's just going to be bad. And so really, you've got these two individuals who are placing expectations on each other, even if they're not aware of it, right? Like, and it's something, and I was, to be truthful, I didn't even want to have this conversation with this individual. I didn't even want to go down this road. I've made it very clear that I'm no longer participating in this back and forth. I played middleman and it burnt me. I learned a lot of lessons in that, and it wasn't right for me. And I laid the law down about this a long time ago. And there are moments where it creeps in, where people
Mhm.
try to do it. They try to
Yep.
push, see,
Yep.
and go. And I was quiet, right? Like you mentioned, you were quiet.
Yep.
I was quiet.
Yep.
I listened for a while. I did state my normal diplomatic self of how I can express like advice, but without it being advice. I mean, this is the truth. It's really what's happening. And it just kept going and going and going. And it was just like this. It was getting ridiculous. Okay. And then it got to the point where this person was like, they said something around the fact of when Draco or Nola do this to you,
They brought, yeah,
I
protection.
lost it. I lost it. I said, do not put that on me. Do not. I'm going to stop you right now. Do not put that on me. And they're like, I didn't put that on you. I'm just trying to say, I said, no, I'm not even having this conversation with you. This is a completely different situation. I have no idea. I don't know what will happen, but I'm not going to take this on, and I'm not going to listen to you. And they're like, fuck you, bitch. And I mean, they just were going crazy about it, right? Like,
Attack
yeah,
mode.
they went crazy. And I said, no, I'm done. And at this point, like, they're screaming at me, and my voice did get elevated, but I'm like, look, I'm done. I'm not listening to this. I said, I'm not going to listen to this. I will stop you right now and calm down a little bit. And then they started going through and we finished our conversation. They never apologized, but like we did finish the conversation. And I ended it by saying, I've already said this before, and this is the last time I'm going to say it. I am not in this relationship. I have nothing to do with any of it. I am not this person, and you can cry and say all the things you want to say all the time, but you're telling the wrong person. Like, I am not it. I have no stake in this game. And right now, this individual is treating both of their parents this way. It's not like one person is being shaded. So I said, you like, honestly, you really should feel good, I think, because it's not like just you, like it's both of
Equal
you.
opportunity.
Yeah, like, I mean, let's look at the positives here. Like, you're not singled out. And the only reason this person, they're so upset because I have contact with this person. And I said, well, truly, you should be happy this person has someone to reach out to.
Yeah. Yeah.
There should be we should have gratitude in that. And I'm not like holding an award, or anything like that. I'm like, but this individual finds comfort and peace in someone, and you should just be grateful for that. And I'm like,
Mhm.
and I said, I don't walk around like saying bad things about you. You know what I mean? Like, and none of that matters. None of that matters. None of that matters. But I made it very clear. I'm like, look, this is my relationship with this person. You have your relationship. And if you can't figure that out, I'm not the person to bring back into this anymore. So anyways, so that happened. That's why I wanted the cord cutting, but I wanted it too because it gets even deeper. They kept bringing up, and they brought this up multiple times, that at some point their mother said very similar things to them that they were trying to project onto me. And I was like, that's really, really unfortunate that she said that to you. And I said, and I can't change that. I cannot change that. I said, but you have free will and you chose to take on that soul contract when she said that to you. And I really hate that happened. I do. I really do, because that sucks. And I said, but that is something you chose to take on, and you attached to that and you went on. And I actually had a conversation with it's my mother, surprise. And I told her, I said, that was really not nice. I said, you should have never said that. And she said, you know what? My dad said that to me. And so I bring this all up because I just want to express, like, hold boundaries, folks. Like, in those moments, what if I took that on? And like, I can feel it creeping in. Like, I've got to do this meditation tonight. I have to, because like, I
Mhm.
can feel it, right? And it's more than just that call. This is generational. Like, this is something that this parent said, that this parent said, that this parent said. And all these people have taken on these generational contracts and soul contracts and attached to these cords and these outcomes. And so I bring all that up just to show you, like, this is in our lives and in our moments when we take on these contracts, or we attach ourselves to energies, or we pull on these cords and they sink into us, and we're not doing anything to release or to let go or to send that energy back, or whatever we're doing, cut the cord, anything, however it is to release that from you, it just keeps fucking going. And it was just a really interesting conversation that then I had with the rest of my family about it, because all these people, and then then there's a sadness of me that's like, did they really even realize what they were doing? You know what I mean? Like, I called my mom, and she was really reflective about it. She was really reflective, and she's like, and I did it because that's what was said to me. And, you know, I do believe we should hold accountability, even though those things were said to us. But it's like what we've talked about before, like, people are parenting and navigating life with the tools they have in their tool belt. And that when that moment, that's what she knew to say, and that she felt like she could say to get something, or a reaction or a movement or a change, because she couldn't control what my brother was doing, right? Like, she couldn't control his outcome. She couldn't control how he was acting in those moments. So she used words and projection to inflict, and he took on that contract, bro.
Yeah, a ton of projection, ton of victim energy,
Yeah.
definitely patterning that you're talking
Yeah.
about, right? And that's so true, right? Like, and that's the thing, is like, until you have first awareness, you have to have awareness around it, right? Like, at some level, it sounds like when you had this conversation with your mother, she had some awareness in reflecting back to, I said those things because they were said to me. And maybe
Yeah.
it gave her some time to think that wasn't maybe the way I wanted to show up, it was the way I chose to show up because that's all I knew. But that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about with, like, 80% of the people out there just bobble around just without awareness. They just do what was done to them. And then these
Yeah.
patterns continue and the hurt continues and the expectation continues. And people are sick and poor and all the things that these patterns create. Your vibration
Yeah.
creates all of these things, right?
Yeah.
And it's until somebody like what you're doing is saying, and he did the same thing to you and he wanted you to have a reaction. So he brought in your children, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen to you. And you're like, absolutely not, you know,
Yeah.
because this is karma, no matter
Yeah.
what you're going through, no matter what. Like I've been watching my mother going through this dis-ease within her
Yeah.
body, dis-ease,
Mhm.
right? And her anger and the way that she's placing anger out to others, instead of like the one thing she hasn't done is look at herself.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just my perspective of being
Yeah.
an observer.
Yeah.
And that's going to be her karma, not my choice. I show up in awareness and love, and I'm trying to really hold those boundaries because I know what I want to put out, because I know what I want to get back. But it has been very interesting to see where she has placed this internal anger.
Mm.
She was having a conversation with my aunt the other day through text message. And my aunt has retired early and currently doesn't have health insurance. And
Yeah.
she was like, well, I eat healthy. My aunt was saying this. I eat pretty healthy. I think I'll be okay. And my mom was just like, well, it happens to everybody. No matter what, the body's going to fail. You're going to have something, just like this whole thing. And it was all like, as she's sharing this story with me, and I was reading the text messages on my mother's phone, watching it go down,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like,
Yeah.
why do you give two shits what your sister's doing? It has no
Yeah.
relevancy on you. If she wants to
Mhm.
retire early and not have medical insurance, good for her. That's her. But the
Yeah.
anger, she couldn't stop herself from just
Yeah.
berating the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very, very interesting. And I really try to hold a high awareness because I have worked so hard with my generational cords and my generational
Yeah.
patterns. And now I'm thrown back into being around it a lot. And so I've
Mhm.
really tried to pay heightened attention around those things coming back at me because we can take them back on. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
I could go back into that victim energy. I could go back into that anger energy. I could go back into that, but that's not the life I want to create
Mhm.
for myself. I want to
No.
change those kind of things. So
Mhm.
I get it. So I'm really proud of you for having the conversation with your brother and your mom because it's not easy, you know?
Oh,
And people get really, really uncomfortable.
oh, they do. I just don't care anymore. Like, plot, no explanation. I just don't. I I've had a couple conversations this week because, like, I I'm going on vacation. I'm going to the beach, and I haven't gone on vacation in about a year, and, like, I mean, I've done, like, little things, but I haven't, like, gone somewhere in a while, and we're going on spring break, and I really need to be at the water. I'm very drawn to the water. Usually when I go to the water, changes in my life happen or things pick up. There's momentum that comes from going to the water for me. Like, every t there's it just happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so, not even like crazy changes, but there's just some momentum in my life. Like, it's like a reset for me, or it removes blocks. I don't know. It does something for me. And so I need to go. And I'm really excited to go be near water and to just rest. And my children are really excited, and they also feel very drawn to the water. And, like, Magnolia, I laugh because she's very high energy, but she's also very hot. She runs hot, and her astrology is also very fire sign hot, and so she's very jazzed to be near water, and she does well near water. She loves it, and so, like, we're excited. Like, basically, we're going to cool down, right? And we're all excited. I have had more people question, like, why I'm not inviting certain members of my family. And I'm like, why would I? Why would I? Like, I have laughed and I've laughed and I have laughed. And I finally was like, would you invite these people too? Like, and then as soon as I ask the question, people are like, "No." I'm like, "Then why me?"
Yeah, why?
Like,
Because they're
why
your
would
family.
I?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
like, but
obligated.
why me though? Yeah, like, you can know these people too, your
Yeah.
friends, your family, like, why me? And when I started asking the questions, things people can't when they can't answer, or they're like, "That was a really dumb thing to ask of someone," or like, "That was
Mhm.
kinda silly." Like, maybe I'm like, "Why am I even asking these types of questions?" Or maybe, "Why am I even putting that on someone?" Because then, like, so I love it. It's like, even in those moments when you start flipping the script, I guess, when you stop just sitting in silence and you ask the questions like, "Why did you say this?" Or, "You know what? I don't want to be talked to that way. I don't feel like I should be talked to that way. I don't really appreciate being talked to that way." Or in these cases, like, I don't want this on me. Don't project that onto me. Or, "I'm actually done with this conversation," and really being done with the conversation. Or, "You know what? I'm going to hang up," or, "I'm going to do this." Like, being able to hold that place in your life and just honestly push back, like, and say, "Why are you even asking me these kinds of things?" And so, even in those little moments of those types of conversations and exchanges, like, we're exchanging energy with people. And, I don't know if it was you that told me this, but, like, I sometimes when I get off a phone call, I imagine the energy of that phone call going back to that person.
Mhm.
Like, I just imagine it going back to them, and, in, like, some form of light. Like, it's going back to them in light, like, just my
Yeah.
and I really do that a lot. Like, I really think about when I get off calls, or when I get off exchanges with people, or I leave conversations or whatever, like, depending on what's happening. Because I agree with you. I've worked really, really hard. I've worked really hard, and I think it's really funny because, like, when someone doesn't agree with me, someone as in my mother, the first thing she says is, "You need therapy." And I'm like, maybe. But I said, "What's really funny," and I said this back the other day. I said, "What's really, really funny is that I've actually done a lot more work than you have. If you have, then that's great. I am not aware of it." I said, "But I have spent the last several years turning myself inside out, unraveling the darkest parts of me, the most beautiful parts of me, the most chaotic, fun, loving, sad, hurt." And she's like, and I said, "Yeah." So I said, "Maybe I'm not following therapy in the scripted way you think, but I'm like, I've actually am at a place where I've done this inner work. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, but, like, I'm really trying. Like, I'm really trying to be the best version of me." And, in those moments, like, that projection of, like, "Well, you need help, you need help." And, like, that was just such a common thing that I heard growing up because I was just a misunderstood person. And I misunderstood because guess what? I wasn't meeting someone's performative expectations, and that's all it
Exactly.
was. Like, there was
Yeah.
nothing wrong with me or right with me either. Like, I just wasn't meeting certain expectations. And so it's easy when we're not in these roles and we're not performing the way people want us to, for people to project and try to send certain expectations or project emotions or try to attach cords to us or try to send this energy to us that's not ours to take on, guys.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
it's just
exactly
not
it.
ours.
Yeah. It's so true. I mean, as you were talking about your mom earlier, and like the religious stuff, is that
Yeah,
part of like if you would just be into the same religion she is, then she would feel better about things. That's her
I think
feeling.
so.
Of course she
Totally,
would,
yeah.
because
Oh,
it's her
yeah.
comfortability. It's what she believes, it's what she knows.
Mhm.
It's like I don't go out there and expect every person that I engage with to believe in the level of spirituality that I believe in, to
Mhm.
appreciate the word witch the way that I appreciate the word witch, right? Even,
Yeah.
my mom was like, I just think that, those are you're entering into negative energies. The word witch freaks
Mhm.
her out. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
your belief. I'm not asking you to cast a
Yeah.
spell with me, mother. Like I'm not, it's good. I don't even need to talk to you about it if you're uncomfortable with it. You don't need to be a part
That
of that.
exactly.
You don't need to exist in
Exactly.
that part of my life, period.
Exactly.
I don't need that. I don't need your
Yeah.
approval. I don't need you
Mhm.
to understand it. And I could, when she talked about it after I was there and my aunt talked about my license plate with her, um, I could feel it. And I was like, I don't need that. I don't need you. It's fine. I have plenty. I can do it all by myself. Plus, I have a whole group of people who embrace the energy with me. And it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be you. And that's okay. I can love you for who you are, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah, she
Yeah.
she was not a fan.
I think it's funny. I think it's so funny because, like, truly, my mom is, and it's so funny because, like, I don't even feel like your mom's that religious. Maybe I haven't picked up on something, but, like, my mom is to a degree, okay? Like, it's more of, like, performative religion, I guess, like, attends the ceremonies, and I know, and she believes in it in her core, right? But, like, I didn't grow up in a home where we woke up and read scriptures, guys. I didn't even do the family home evenings. I didn't do any of that stuff. So it wasn't like a lot of other environments that people grew up in. So it makes me giggle sometimes just because it's like, okay, but what are you doing, right? Like, you're telling me I need to be doing all these things, and you're not even doing the things that you should, in quotations, be doing, right? Like, it's like, what is this? It's like a freaking, like, slinky. You know what I mean? Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I love what you just said though about, like, you don't even need to be a part of this, because I've actually came to that point. Like, one day I was telling her about something, and she's like, "Well, what are you going to go do? Or where are you going?" And I was like, "You know what? It's just don't worry about it." She's like, "Well, what is it?" And I'm like, "Just don't worry about it. Like, honestly, it's just best. It's because you're not going to understand, and you're not going to, it's not even the understanding part, it's the embracing part. And it's just not worth it." Like, I've come to this conclusion, and I do share things with her, and I do talk, and some things she's receptive of. There are things, but I think when things start crossing lines, like I was if talking about tarot and things like that, or oracle card or
Mhm.
whatever, it doesn't even matter what it is. Like, or if I'm doing this, or I have an energy session, or or whatever, like, I'm like, "Don't worry about it." She's like, "Well, where are you going?" I'm like, like, I was like, "I'm fine. I'll be fine. Just it's just best."
Uh,
30, almost 31 years old. Like, don't worry about it. Okay? Just don't worry about it. I'm alive. My husband knows what I'm doing. No one even needs to know what I'm doing, but, like, I'm accounted for. So
yeah,
I'm not in harm's way. So don't
I
worry about
got
it.
it.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. So, I mean, I definitely did not grow up with any type of religion at
Yeah.
all. It was just a fucking free for all at my home. So, I, as my mom, after I was out of the home, she started to embrace Buddhism and really study
Yeah.
Buddhism, which is fine. But even at that one word was a trigger because wherever that comes from, and I know
Mhm.
some things about Buddhism because I study Buddhism and Hinduism, and I take bits
Mhm.
and pieces that really resonate with me from all sorts of things. But
Yeah.
there, I'm wondering if there's some other deep-seated stuff from her childhood that like surfacing too from a Christianity perspective, right?
Yeah.
That word is just a trigger to associate with what she calls dark energy, playing
Yeah.
with dark energy. No, I actually don't play with dark energy. I'm aware that there's dark energy. I'm very aware of energy.
Yeah.
That doesn't associate to that, but it goes back to the collective consciousness and how strong that collective consciousness can be around wording, right? That
Oh,
word,
yeah.
you think about the words like that I try not to use, like addiction and alcoholic and drug
Mm.
addict, because there's such a negative connotation
Mhm.
of the collective consciousness that you
Yeah.
start to put that energy out unconsciously because you're not conscious about your words, right? And so
Yeah.
I don't know. That was a trigger for her. It was interesting. I didn't really think it would be, if I'm being honest, but it was.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, when you said the collective consciousness, I was gonna say, so my mom and Tressa's mom are actually, like, a year or so apart. They're very similar in age.
Yeah, I think they're actually the same age or
Same
close to it.
age.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and that's so
Yeah.
it's
I know,
hilarious
it's
to me.
crazy.
Um, so I wanted, I don't know, it came to my mind, when you were talking, because it's like, it's so interesting because you have these 2 different people, okay, 2 different backgrounds, 2 different parts of this country, right? We're not even in the world,
Yep.
just
Oh,
in our
yeah,
country.
totally.
And they are part of the same collective consciousness because they grew up in the same collective experience.
Mhm.
And it is so interesting because a lot of the things that Tressa talks to me about her life and her mom and her childhood, are so similar to my mom and my life and my childhood in ways. Like, They may not be exactly in mirrors, but some of the language, the way things are talked about, the way things are expressed, the way things are like the parenting styles, like some of the stuff is just so interesting, and even their own values and thoughts and feelings about themselves. And when you're talking, it just made me think about like it really truly is this collective consciousness. Like it's this
Mhm.
collective experience for these people who were born in this generation, who grew up in this generation, and who continue to move through this world. And what I found really interesting too is like my experience, and I think what made me feel very disconnected from people my age is because I was being raised by a whole freaking different generation than everyone
Yeah,
else around me.
because they were a lot
And so
older. Yeah.
yes. And so, like,
Mhm.
they were parented very different than I was being parented at the time. And, honestly, I think it was the best thing for me, and it kept me out of trouble, and it kept me safe, and it kept me in a place that I needed to be in. But I think it makes so much more sense as I get older and I understand like why I felt like I didn't belong, because I was really being raised. I was being raised by a whole different group of people. And
Mhm.
a lot of the things that I talk about that I've experienced, people my age didn't experience, and they experienced different kinds of things that I didn't experience, right? Or like different levels of parenting styles, traumas, or different things. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, good, bad, ugly, all of it. And it's just so interesting. I don't know. I love that you said the collective consciousness, because I really do believe that. And I really believe that for these groups of people that move through the world in these same generations, and the way they move about and the way they act. And like even on social media, I've seen someone post something, for example, and it was like their Saturday morning. They're being nostalgic, right? And we've talked about this before, like wanting to go back to a time or a place. And it would be like their Saturday morning. And it was the craziest thing. Like it looked exactly like my Saturday mornings, and we all grew up in the same pocket, right? Like,
Mhm.
and this was a time where there wasn't social media and there wasn't, anything, and, like, I'm sure you've experienced this too, Tressa, where you've met people and they're like, "Yeah, that happened to me too," or, "We watched the same show," or, "We did this," or, "We played this," or, "We played that game," and you definitely grew up in the era of no social media and phones and
Oh,
stuff, so, like,
100%. Yeah.
it was so interesting, like, how this collective consciousness happens with everybody as we enter into the space in similar time periods and we move through the world, and how even if we're in different places, we end up experiencing similar experiences, and, like, the attachments we take along the way and the
Yeah.
things that we project out into the world along the way because of those experiences.
It's true. As you were talking, I was thinking about that. That's one thing we use a lot of terms. Well, it's that generation. But it's that generation because of the way the collective consciousness was expressing or agreeing to some
Mhm.
theory. So as you were
Yep.
talking, I was thinking about smoking, cigarette
Yep.
smoking, right? Like,
Yep.
back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or whatever, everyone smoked. You smoked
Mhm.
everywhere. Right? There was
Yep.
no concerns, nothing. I mean, it was on planes, it was in restaurants, it
It
was
was sexy.
yeah, it was
It
sexy, the
was right,
Marlboro Man.
it was
Doctors were
yeah.
talking about their
Yeah.
favorite brand of cigarettes, right? And then
Yep.
some point along the line, somebody made a decision to change the narrative, and it slowly
Mhm.
started to change, right?
Yep.
Because the collective consciousness said, "This is bad for you, this is gonna do this is gonna do that to your body." And I am not a conspiracy theorist, but I think it's true. I think big pharma started to come in and start to, they want people to, I'm serious. I think it's a
No,
collective energy
I
about it,
agree.
and they're going to change the narrative about smoking, and that's what they've done, right?
Yeah.
And, so it's
Well, guess
become
what?
less and less popular.
We're
But now
back
there's
here because
yeah.
now it's about body positivity. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
I've read about 6 articles in the last 2 weeks, and I have a friend who's also she's not very my best friend is not attached to, like, news. Like, like we digest things that we want to digest. We don't
Yeah.
sit around and like da da da. So when she says seen something also, then I know that it's out there too, because we're both in our own little worlds reading what we're reading. And this is totally not what this episode's about, but I just want to talk about it because you hit it. You hit it
Yeah.
right there. Body positivity is not real anymore. Like that we went through this whole thing over body positivity and like loving yourself and loving your body as it is and don't change and don't change. And all these people who were role models and advocates for body positivity are on Ozempic.
Yeah.
And I don't even have anything against it. I do not care. Do what you want to do. do whatever. I have no feelings towards it. Whatever. It's the same way with like Botox and stuff. I might not choose to do Botox, but somebody else might, and that's fine. That's
Yeah.
cool. I don't care what you do. I have no feelings. I don't care if you fucking smoke. I don't care what the hell you do.
Yeah.
My thing is just I laugh because you're right. It's not a thing anymore because somebody woke up
Yep.
and changed the narrative. And now we're back to early 2000s and body positivity and all those people who sang about it, wrote about it, embraced it, empowered it, curves, are not even the same person anymore. They don't
Yeah.
even, you can't even recognize them
I
anymore. And
know.
that's okay. They chose that. But that's one of those things that's completely shifted now.
Yeah, I think it goes back to think for yourself. Think for
Yeah.
yourself, not what everyone else is saying, not what the narrative is out there. Go inside and take a look within and ask yourself what serves you, right? And I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
We're just like little sheep, just following along. Ding,
We
ding,
are.
ding.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I have nothing.
Yeah.
I don't care. I have nothing against it, and I think it's a good.
Yeah.
There's good and there's opposition in everything, right? We
Hmm.
have to see the good, to see the bad, the light, the dark, all of it, right? And there's things that work, and there's things that don't work, and I embrace the things and take what I need, and then, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But you're right. Like, we're all collectively shifting as a group and a society, and as we move through these places, like you look at the different people and the different generations and what they're absorbing and attaching to and
Hmm.
agreeing to. And then, like my niece will never parent the same way I parent. And that's okay because we're two different groups of people and we've made two different attachments, right?
Hmm.
And my children won't, whatever it is, right? Or like the beauty standards, fashion, trends, all of it. And it's so interesting. God, think about all the cords we attach to. Like thinking, I'm just
So
like, I
many.
just spiraled
Yeah.
like, oh my
You go
gosh.
from the superficial to the more
Yeah.
deep ones. It's
Yeah.
funny. I was shopping with my best friend a couple weeks ago, and bell bottoms or wide legs or whatever.
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, have you bought any of those yet?" And I'm like, "No, I don't like them. I
Yeah.
don't like them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to buy something that doesn't make me feel good." And
Yep.
I don't think it matters if I'm wearing the trend or not, because when I wear what makes me feel good, it
Mhm.
resonates. My energy resonates
Exactly.
with that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's at every level.
Yeah. I've laughed, and
Yeah.
I think I talked about it a couple episodes ago, like about the 90s and the shows and the
Yeah.
romanticizing the 90s again. And for a minute, it had me Googling. It had me Googling and wanting some new clothes. And then I had to be like, no, 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 you've worked hard on this. No, no, no. Like, be you. You don't need this. And there are things that I can like and can take from it, right? Or like restyle. But it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, of course.
we're fed. They want us to attach.
Yep,
There's my tinfoil hat.
they
They want
do.
us to
Well,
latch.
latch on. Money, money, money.
Yeah.
Greed, greed.
So that was
All
fun.
right. Well, we better end. My dog's gonna rip down my door if I don't go let him in here soon.
Yeah,
Can hear him out there.
I'm getting greasy. I'm shining on the camera. I need to take my makeup off. I can feel it.
Well, until next time, keep your vibrations way high.
And stay sassy.